Hi and welcome to my Python YouTube channel. It's awesome to have you here. If you like this video, a thumbs up would be great. And make sure to subscribe for future videos. I also have a blog at prosperacoder.com with lots of cool stuff, so feel free to check it out. Here's another video in the Functions in Python series. If you haven't watched the previous parts yet, feel free to do so. These include Introduction to Functions, Functions with Parameters, the Return Statement, Mandatory Parameters, Optional Parameters, Mutable Optional Parameters, and Keyword Arguments. Today we learn how to pass an arbitrary number of positional parameters to a function. In the examples so far, we had no parameters or a fixed number of parameters. The number of parameters a function is passed is called its arity. So if the number of parameters is fixed, the arity is definite. But sometimes we don't know how many parameters are needed. Let's imagine a function which returns the sum of all the numbers passed to it as arguments multiplied by 2. It could be 5 numbers, 20 numbers, or 130 numbers, for example. One way to do it is use a sequence, like a list, for example. Then you could pass a list of any length to the function, like so. Here we have the sum double function with one parameter, and it returns the sum of the numbers multiplied by 2. And now here you can see how we can call this function. So we can pass a list with 2 elements or with a greater number of elements, an arbitrary number of elements actually. Now let's run it. The output is 10, 56. Good. So these are the sums multiplied by 2. A different approach commonly used is using tuple references. A tuple reference is a parameter prefixed with an asterisk, which must be the last parameter passed to the function. An exception to this rule are keyword parameters, which may come after the tuple reference. A tuple reference just tells the function that any number of parameters may be passed to the function in its place. We could rewrite our sum double function like so. Here, we just need to add an asterisk or star, like so. And here, nothing changes. Now we can pass any number of parameters, not just one list. So instead of passing this list, we'll just pass 2 parameters, 2 and 3. And also here, instead of one list, we'll pass multiple arguments. So, like that. So as you can see, this same function is called twice with a different number of arguments. Now, the output should be identical. Yeah, so it is. Good. Now, as said before, the arguments are in a tuple. So if we pass no arguments to the function, we get an empty tuple. Here's a simple function, maybe in interactive mode, that can take an arbitrary number of arguments. We'll use it with 0 arguments and then with 3. So the function is pretty straightforward. Echo words, it takes any number of words and prints the words. So let's use this function now with 0 arguments. Echo words, no arguments. And we get an empty tuple. And now let's call the same function with 3 arguments. Like that. Now we get a tuple with 3 elements. Fine. And now let's have a look at another example with more parameters. I will call this function multigreater. Now let's have a look at this function. This function has one regular parameter, fancy, and a tuple reference. This means that after fancy, we can pass any number of names. So what does the function do? First, it sets a greeting. So if fancy is true, the greeting is fancy. Hello, my dear and beloved, and so on. If fancy is set to false, the greeting is very simple. Hi, and the name. And then it prints these greetings for each of the names, passing the name as the argument to the format function. So putting it here in these placeholders. And now here in our example, we set fancy to false, so we prefer to have this simple greeting, and we pass two names, John and Mary. And now, let's run it. Hi John, hi Mary. So this simple greeting was chosen. And now, let's set fancy to true and use more names in the function call. So let's change the function call like this. This means that this fancier greeting should be chosen, and this should be used for all these names. So let's run this now. Hello, my dear and beloved John, and so on. So as you can see now, this fancier greeting was chosen. And now suppose we have a list of names. We could pass it to our multigreater function. So here we have a list of names, and here we pass it to the multigreater function. Let's run it. And what we get is this. Hello, my dear and beloved. And here we have a list. Mary, Monica, Louis. Well, this is not necessarily what we hoped for. There's an easy way to do it. We just have to unpack the list. And we can do it using the asterisk again. So if I put an asterisk here, this means unpack this list and use the elements of the list one by one. Now it should work as expected. Yeah, so we get this greeting, this fancy greeting for each name one by one. And one more example. As said before, we may use keyword arguments after the tuple reference, like here. Join words, tuple reference, and then a keyword argument. So we call this function with the following arguments. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the words. And then we put the keyword argument separator. And the same in the second example. 1, 2, 3, and 4 are the words that correspond to this tuple reference, and then we put the keyword argument separator. And now, if we run this, we will get the following output. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So here the separator was and 1 star 2 star 3 star 4. Here the separator was a star. Okay, that's it for this video. If you like it, a thumbs up would be great. Also, make sure to subscribe for future videos. If you want to leave a comment or ask a question, you're welcome to do so. Thanks for watching.